You're listening to Wealthy-esque. We are a community of lawyers who believe that true wealth is having control of our time. I'm Ro Thomas, and as a busy wife, mom, and former Big Law associate, I know all too well the tension between the culture of the legal profession and pretty much everything else you want to do in life. That's why each week I'm bringing you the information and tools you need to improve your money mindset and manage your money to create true wealth. Because ultimately, it's not about the money. It's about the freedom and flexibility the money affords. Hey friend, welcome back to the show. I hope you're doing well and having an amazing day so far. So today we're talking about managing other people's thoughts about you. It's something that comes up a lot for lawyers because often we want to preserve our reputation and we don't want people to think things about us, right? But that line of thinking often messes up lawyers' finances. We are just coming off the holidays, and I often say that trying to control what other people think of you is one of the biggest budget issues for lawyers around the holidays. So you may have been thinking things like, I have to get this person a gift, or I have to spend at least this amount on the gift, or this isn't enough, I have to get more, or especially for those of us who are the first in our families to go to law school, I'm the one who made it. So I don't want them to think I can't afford it or I've changed or whatever you're afraid for them to think, whoever them is. And so I want to talk about it today and just kind of dive into all the things, like my thoughts about it. So, first, let's start with the fact that we think we know what other people are thinking. So, you may tell yourself things like, oh, I can never do that because they're going to think X, or I have to spend on this because I don't want them to think Y. But when you're thinking, I can't, or I have to, or some version of that because you're trying to control what someone else thinks, or you think that someone else is going to think something about you, really, it's just a thought that you have yourself because you can't know what other people are thinking unless they tell you. And even then, you can't know if that's really what they're thinking, right? What we think other people are thinking is really just a reflection of what we're thinking, just like the judgments that we have about other people are really a reflection of the judgments that we have about ourselves. And so one of my coaches once said, anytime you find yourself saying people are going to think X, you can cross that out and say, I think. When you're trying to manage other people's thoughts, when you're trying to make someone have a particular opinion of you, when you're doing something because you don't want someone to be mad at you or you want someone to think X about you, it's really a form of manipulation because you're not showing up as your true self. You're projecting this facade, you're doing this thing just because you're trying to get them to think a certain way about you. And this impacts a lot of lawyers' finances, especially when it comes to living a particular lifestyle, where your kids go to school, the activities you do on the weekends, where you live, the type of car you drive. When you're trying to live your life based on what other people will think of you and keeping up a certain lifestyle, often you'll end up spending way more than if you lived based on what you truly cared about. And often you end up feeling way more unhappy. So you're trying to manipulate the way that this person thinks about you or those people feel about you or whatever, and you are making yourself unhappy because you're not doing the things that you want to do. And again, what you think other people think is just a reflection of your own thoughts because you don't actually know what other people are thinking or what they expect of you. And even if you do know, right? Even if you do know their thoughts and expectations, because sometimes people will tell you, you still can only control yourself. Byron Katie talks about minding your own business. And I just love this whole concept. She talks about, there's God's business, your business, and other people's business. And God's business is the things like the weather and natural disasters and, things that no one has control over. And then your business is your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors. And other people's business is their thoughts, their emotions, their behaviors. And so when you're trying to manage what other people think or how they'll feel, really you're in other people's business. There's nothing you can do about their business. There's nothing you can do about what someone else thinks or feels or does. You can only change what you think and what you feel and what you do. And I think about this sometimes with sharing my story of being in over $500,000 of debt and not knowing how to manage my money and all of that. Like some people have thoughts about that. Some of them have even told me, right? Like back when I was still writing my blog, people would leave comments about it. But if I think about that, if I think about what other people will think and I don't want them to think XYZ, then I wouldn't be able to show up here to serve you. And I know that I'm here to help lawyers manage their money better, but I can't do that if I'm worried that someone will think something about me and my money story. And I remember actually when I first started my blog, I was afraid to write it under my real name. And that kept me showing up pretty small, right? I didn't want anyone to know it was me, but then that also led to not many people really knowing what I was doing because I wasn't talking about it. I was trying to hide. And so when I put my name and my face on it and owned my story and, I started showing up more, I was invited to be on panels and I was doing interviews and, all of these things to help more people. And then when I decided that what I have to say is important and that sharing my story can really help people, and I started talking about it even more widely and really not worrying about people who might judge me and my story, then I started helping way more people and having a much bigger impact, right? But it goes back to the worry about what people will think, or I can't do this, or I should do that because, I don't want people to think X or they're going to think Y. So bringing it back to you and your finances. When you're getting into this space of spending money or buying certain things, or even doing things that don't have to do with money, trying to make other people think a certain way about you, notice it, right? Notice if what you're doing is something that you actually want to do, or if you're just doing what you think someone else wants you to do. Question why this person's thoughts and expectations are more important to you than what you actually want. Think about what you truly value and what you want for your life, and look at the things that you care about and the things that you don't care about. And then from there, you can decide what you want to spend on, what you don't want to spend on, what you want to do, what you don't want to do, all that kind of stuff. And you may run across some people who aren't happy with the decisions that you make, right? They're not happy with the choices that you make. They think you should be spending your money in this way and on these things. But again, going back to Byron Katie, that's their business. That's their work. And that's not to say that we don't care about how other people feel or whatever, but we literally can't control how another person feels or what they think. Generally, other people don't think about us as much as we think they do anyway, right? They're thinking about themselves just as much as we're thinking about ourselves. So just be mindful that you're making decisions, financial and otherwise, from a place of thinking about what you actually want and what you value, rather than what you think other people are going to think and, spending your money trying to make people think or feel a certain way about you. And if you want help with getting out of this cycle and you want to learn to manage your money in a way that feels good and allows you to reach your goals faster than you ever thought possible, let's set up a call. You can head to rothomas.com/call. All right, so that's it for this week's episode. Come connect with me over on social media. I am most often on Instagram and LinkedIn, and my handle on Instagram is @IamRoThomas. Subscribe to the show and leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on, and make sure you tell a friend. As we close out, I pray that you will notice all the things you believe other people will think about you and question why you think those things. I pray that you will learn to live your life in a way that honors what you truly want and need. And as always, I pray that you continue to take steps to regain control of your time, build wealth, and live the life of freedom and choice you deserve. Talk to you later.